You know, my mama went to school with him. My mama was so scared for me to even be involved with him.
Lil Wayne took Birdman to court for $51 million, described himself as trapped, and during that fallout, there was a serious incident involving his tour bus. Juvenile walked away from a quadruple platinum run, sued Cash Money, and said the contracts were so lopsided he wouldn't see real royalties for years. After years of alleged mismanagement, missing payments, and broken promises, artists from every era have spoken up about why resentment toward Birdman runs so deep. You want to talk about a situation that crushed hip-hop fans worldwide? Start with the most painful chapter of all, the public conflict between Lil Wayne and Birdman. For those unfamiliar with the history, Wayne met Birdman as a kid on the streets of New Orleans. Baby became a father figure, taking him in and signing him to Cash Money Records when Wayne was barely 9 or 11 years old. Wayne has since explained just how powerful Birdman's name already was in those New Orleans streets. This wasn't just a label executive, this was someone whose reputation echoed long before the industry knew his face. Wayne even recalled his mother's reaction to him signing with Baby, which says everything about the weight that name carried.
And in New Orleans, you know, that name way before there was rap, before there was a Cash Money Records, that name held weight. You know, my mama went to school with him. My mama was so scared for me to even be involved with him.
Wow.
You know what I mean? All she would say was like, boy, that boy was 14 with $1 million. Like, ain't nobody, I don't know how he got him. That was 14, I don't know. She was scared of him.
So we're talking about someone whose name carried serious weight in the streets, long before rap even became his lane. Wayne's biological father walked away, and his stepfather was later killed, leaving a huge void in his life. Birdman stepped into that role, becoming a father figure. They were so close that photos of them kissing on the lips circulated, something Birdman always framed as a father-son gesture. That's how tight their bond was. But by 2014, everything between Wayne and Baby completely unraveled. Wayne said Birdman was holding the Carter 5 back, refusing to release it, withholding advances he was owed, and keeping him locked into the label with no freedom. Wayne had launched Young Money Entertainment in 2005 as a Cash Money imprint, signing major stars like Drake and Nicki Minaj. Under the deal, Cash Money owned 51% of Young Money, while Wayne held 49%. On paper, it promised shared success, but in reality, it planted the seeds for serious conflict. On December 4, 2014, Wayne went to Twitter and told the world he wanted off the label and nothing to do with the people there, but admitted it wasn't that simple. He said he felt like a prisoner and that his creativity was trapped. That message shook the culture, because this was Wayne, the artist who helped define Cash Money's golden era. His manager Cortez Bryant backed him up publicly, saying Wayne had carried the label on his back for over a decade. Things escalated in January 2015 when Wayne filed a $51 million lawsuit against Cash Money Records. He claimed he was owed an $8 million advance for the Carter 5, another $2 million for completing the album, plus royalties from Young Money artists. Wayne alleged Birdman had misused tens of millions of dollars from a $100 million Young Money advance meant for marketing and royalties, even accusing Birdman and Universal of conspiring to cover Birdman's debts with his money. Then in April 2015, Wayne's tour bus was attacked in Atlanta after a show. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The incident was later linked through phone records to Young Thug associates, with Pee Wee Roscoe arrested and sentenced. Neither Birdman nor Thug was charged, but rumors spread that Birdman was positioning Thug as Wayne's replacement, especially after Thug initially titled the project Carter 6. The dispute was finally resolved in 2018. Wayne received a reported 8-figure payout, Universal gained control of his catalog, and he was released from Cash Money. The Carter 5 dropped that September, debuting with 480,000 units. The two later reconciled publicly, hugging on stage, posting photos together, and even addressing it at Lil Louisiana Fest. For a while, though, it looked like a father-son bond had been permanently shattered over money. And even before Wayne's fallout, Juvenile had already shown the pattern. He was one of the label's biggest stars, dropping classics like 400 Degrees, which went quadruple platinum in 1998, with hits that still ring off at cookouts today. His follow-up releases kept the momentum going. The G Code went double platinum, Project English reached platinum status, and Juvenile the Great also went platinum. with Slow Motion featuring Soulja Slim topping the Hot 100. But the backstory of how Juvenile even landed at Cash Money matters. After leaving Warlock Records over creative differences, Juvie wanted to grow beyond bounce music and expand his sound. That path led him to a chance meeting with Birdman on a New Orleans bus stop. Birdman was impressed with Juvenile's freestyle and connected him with producer Manny Fresh. Another factor pushing Juvenile toward Cash Money was the existing rivalry with Master P's No Limit Records, especially tension involving Mystical. Still, by the early 2000s, around 2001 or 2002, Juvenile left Cash Money over money issues. He said the label wasn't paying what it owed him, and that his lawyer later discovered the contracts were so poorly structured he wouldn't receive royalties for years. Juvenile claimed Cash Money relied on a criminal lawyer to handle entertainment deals, which led to bad filings and legal losses. According to him, the paperwork was sloppy and artists kept getting shorted. Juvenile explained it wasn't personal, just business gone wrong, but he accused Birdman and Slim of benefiting far more, while he, Turk, and BG were left out. In 2003, Juvenile sued Cash Money for unpaid royalties, reportedly seeking $4 million but settling for a higher amount. Publicly, he criticized Birdman for damaging his reputation, while Birdman fired back, calling Juvenile a failure and claiming his solo career fell off, even alleging threatening messages. Things turned personal fast. Then there's BG, a cornerstone of New Orleans rap and one of the original Hot Boys. He signed to Cash Money at just 12 years old, alongside a young Lil Wayne. BG gave the world Bling Bling, a record that helped define the late 1990s and even added a word to the dictionary. With albums like Chopper City and The Ghetto in 1999, BG helped Cash Money secure a massive distribution deal with Universal. Like the others, he left in the early 2000s over financial disputes, saying he was never paid for contributions to dozens of records and received no royalties for albums released before 1998. In 2001, BG, Juvenile, and Turk all exited amid claims of unpaid royalties, later settling and briefly returning in 2003, though resentment lingered. BG later served over a decade in prison after a 2009 conviction, eventually being released in September 2023. Still, Birdman greeted him upon release with a chain and reportedly cash. Despite that, BG had released a diss track earlier, even calling out Lil Wayne, leaving fans wondering why Birdman ultimately chose forgiveness.
And I know Birdman. I know him.
Man, Birdman raised me, bro. You heard me? You know what I'm saying?
I love that.
Like, you know, that's like a father figure to me. You know what I'm saying? Him and Slim. You know what I mean? I got the utmost love for him, the utmost, respect for him. Like,
BG explained that when emotions hit, he zones out in the booth and lets everything spill. It's not calculated, just raw venting straight from the heart. Birdman understood that because their bond runs deep. BG even spoke about how his mother's house was a stash spot back in the 80s, showing how far back those relationships go. Now, if there's someone who's been consistently vocal about problems with Cash Money, it's Hot Boy Turk. He's gone back and forth with Birdman and even former group members for years. And unlike BG, Turk's issues with the label were never fully settled. Turk was discovered by Birdman at just 13 and joined Cash Money alongside the others, forming the Hot Boys. Their debut, Get It How You Live, dropped in 1997 and sold hundreds of thousands of copies. Guerrilla Warfare followed in 1999, topping the R&B and hip-hop charts and cracking the Billboard 200. But by 2003, Turk left Cash Money with Juvenile and BG, citing unpaid royalties. He said he received no compensation for contributions to roughly 80 records. In 2004, Turk was arrested during a drug raid involving a SWAT operation and later sentenced to 14 years, serving nearly 9 before his 2012 release. What hurt most was what happened afterward. When Turk came home, Birdman didn't acknowledge him at all. Compared to BG's welcome, that silence said everything. In 2015, Turk sued Cash Money seeking rights to his music and over $1 million in damages, claiming the contracts were invalid due to poor accounting. The case settled out of court for about $1.3 million, which Turk later described as severance that excluded publishing rights. He briefly re-signed with Cash Money in 2016, but nothing materialized. More recently, tensions resurfaced during Hot Boys reunion talks.
Turk was expected to join the 2025 30th anniversary tour, but things unraveled fast when he refused to take a pay cut, setting off another round of conflict.
So you expect me to take a pay cut in the next city on top of taking a loss? You feel me? That I ain't getting none of my back end? Nah, I need all my money when we go to Cleveland. You feel me? Once I said that, I thought everything was cool, understood, but they had a cake bake for me, I guess that's what they think. 4 o'clock in the morning, they sent my manager an email saying that I'm terminated. You know, that I was a security.
Was this the first time you were hearing about a security
Yeah,
risk?
because where was our security threat before when you offered me to take less of my money?
Then, at the Cash Money versus No Limit versus battle in October 2025, Birdman took another shot, calling Turk out from the stage and saying they'd deal with him whenever they felt like it. Turk wasn't even invited and watched the whole thing from home while hosting his own watch party. That moment poured gasoline on an already burning situation. Turk didn't stop there. He went after BG too, calling him anti-BG and clowning his outfit from the Versus battle. The tension between Turk and the rest of the Cash Money camp is still chaotic. He later sued promoters for $300,000, and they fired back with a $12 million lawsuit, accusing Turk of sabotaging the tour. That conflict is nowhere near settled. Now, if we're talking about who actually built the Cash Money sound, Manny Fresh has to be mentioned. He produced nearly every major hit the label had in the late 90s and early 2000s, from Back That Ass Up to Still Fly, Go DJ, and Bling Bling. Manny joined Cash Money around 1993 and crafted that signature New Orleans bounce sound with heavy bass and synths. He wasn't just behind the boards either. Manny was one half of the Big Timers with Birdman, dropping the platinum-selling Hood Rich album in 2002. Early on, Manny credited the label for showing how independent artists could win financially in hip-hop. But by 2005, he walked away, citing money issues and a desire for creative freedom. Manny wanted to branch out into other genres like rock and gospel, but more importantly, he felt underpaid for beats that defined the label. He said he earned around $50,000 per beat, yet noticed major gaps between the flashy lifestyle and the financial statements he saw. He later described it as homeboy business, where friends and family handle roles they aren't qualified for, turning business messy fast. According to Manny, Birdman responded harshly to his departure, questioning his loyalty in interviews. Manny sued Cash Money and settled in mid-2006 for an undisclosed amount, retaining some masters. Even years later, he admitted he was still chasing royalties, calling it a hard lesson about trusting people with money. After leaving, Manny worked with Def Jam South and produced for Jeezy, calling that period a turning point after a dark stretch. And finally, things get even spicier with Gilly the Kid, who has long claimed he ghost wrote for Lil Wayne early, saying he helped shape Wayne's flow and contributed to the Carter-era material at Cash Money. Birdman and Wayne have consistently denied Gilly's claims. Gilly was briefly signed to Cash Money in the early 2000s, but left in 2003 over money issues. He said he was promised a $200,000 signing bonus, only to get trapped in unfair publishing terms and what he described as bad business overall. Birdman is always pushed back, saying Gilly never released music under Cash Money and never made the label $1. In 2023, Birdman doubled down, saying Gilly never wrote a single rhyme for Lil Wayne. Still, the tension lingered for years through diss records and street DVDs. In 2006, Wayne took shots at Gilly on Problem Solver from the Carter II, framing it as a father-son style response. Gilly fired back publicly, appearing on Cheddar DVD Volume 6 with a wave of accusations. He claimed he lent Wayne jewelry for videos, gave business advice, and exposed what he called fake behavior inside the Cash Money camp. The feud stayed quiet for years, until it flared up again in 2023 when Birdman appeared on Clubhouse with Whack 100 and said he had lost all respect for Gilly. Birdman referenced an alleged incident involving Beanie Siegel in Philadelphia, claiming Gilly was armed and surrounded, but didn't respond. Birdman framed it as backing down. Gilly responded in a video, questioning why Birdman waited decades to speak up, saying it took him 25 years to find courage. He also claimed he now makes more money than Birdman,
and rejected the Beanie Siegel story as completely fabricated. Despite all the back and forth, Gilly has still said that beef aside, he respects Birdman's hustle.
So Ace said one thing he respects about Birdman is the hustle, and that's one thing everybody has got to respect about Birdman. Can't nobody say they out-hustled Birdman from the very start. Hey, we know what he allegedly did back in his teens and stuff like that. He was outside in the streets, all of that stuff. Been documented and confirmed, you feel me? Now, fast forward, he built Cash Money from the ground up with his brother, had a bunch of local artists and made them national artists. He took those national artists and made them global superstars. We're talking about Wayne, Drake, Nicki Minaj, Juvenile, BG, Turk, the Hot Boys. Manny Fresh made him one of the greatest producers of all time.
At 48, Gilly has framed his position as choosing family and legacy over pointless conflict, suggesting the tension is more about old wounds than active warfare. Even with his issues, he's admitted Birdman's business instincts and grind are undeniable. That's real talk. Now let's get into a rivalry that's been simmering for over 2 decades, Pusha T versus Birdman in the Cash Money camp. This one has layers. It traces back to 2002 when Birdman allegedly didn't properly compensate the Neptunes for their production on What Happened to That Boy, which featured Clips, Pusha T, and No Malice. After that, Pharrell reportedly stopped working with Cash Money altogether. Because Pusha was closely tied to Pharrell through the Star Trek camp, he took the situation personally, and it became a lasting grievance. Tensions grew when Lil Wayne began wearing bait, a style heavily associated with Clips and Pharrell via Nego. In 2006, Clips dropped Mr. Me Too with Pharrell, throwing lines many interpreted as calling out Wayne for biting their look. Wayne responded later that year in a Complex interview, downplaying Clips' influence and mocking Pharrell, which only poured fuel on the fire. Things escalated in 2012 when Pusha T released Exodus 23:1, criticizing Cash Money's layered contract system, with bars about artists being signed to multiple levels. Many took it as a shot at Drake's deal and Birdman's oversight. Wayne fired back online and with a diss record, while Pusha dismissed Wayne's response publicly, calling it weak. The shots didn't stop. As recently as July 2025, Pusha was still throwing jabs, dropping lines that referenced industry lawsuits and calling out Birdman indirectly. He later told GQ that legal battles cheapen rap competition, making it clear the tension never really faded. That's over 20 years of consistent smoke aimed at Cash Money, and Pusha T hasn't let it go. Then there's Rick Ross. He and Birdman were once genuinely close, even recording a joint project together that surfaced as a mixtape in 2013 hosted by DJ Khaled. Their bond was built on mutual respect, with Ross representing Miami and Birdman New Orleans, 2 southern powerhouses. But cracks formed when Ross watched how Birdman treated Lil Wayne during their public fallout, setting the stage for yet another strained relationship within the Cash Money orbit. In 2015, Ross dropped Color Money, subtly shading the Cash Money situation. A year later, he took shots on Snapchat, mocking a possible Birdman-Wayne reunion, and sending rosé to Charlemagne after Birdman's infamous "put some respect on my name" rant at the Breakfast Club. The peak came in March 2017, when Ross released the diss Idols Become Rivals over a soulful sample. Ross reflected on lost admiration, saying Birdman once inspired confidence, but had his hand in people's pockets, urging him to find kindness for Wayne, who gave him everything to gain. Ross also called for producers to be paid, directly criticizing Birdman for allegedly shortchanging the people who made Cash Money sound. In interviews, Ross explained he once idolized Birdman, but watching how Wayne was treated after carrying the label for over a decade shattered that respect. Speaking to Billboard, Ross said Birdman should have been in the building forcing the issue to make sure Wayne got paid. Birdman brushed it off, saying he doesn't get caught up in the noise and only cares about numbers. Tensions spiked again in fall 2017 with Birdman's 10-minute rant video. Ross replied from vacation, saying Birdman was years late paying Wayne what he was owed. The underscore between the back and forth how personal the situation had become. Tyga signed to Young Money in 2008 and scored massive hits like Rack City, which went 4 times platinum and peaked in the Hot 100 top 10. His major albums generated revenue, but also costs that later fueled disputes. By October 2014, Tyga publicly complained that Cash Money was holding the gold album 18th Dynasty hostage, saying the project was finished but trapped by politics. This unfolded alongside Wayne's fight over the Carter 5. Birdman responded cautiously in interviews, calling it not ideal but avoiding direct attacks. By 2015, Tyga confirmed plans to leave and release the gold album independently through his own label. In 2017, he said he was owed $12 to $15 million in royalties, including for Rack City, adding he delayed legal action while waiting for Wayne's case to be resolved, prioritizing Wayne getting what he was owed first. Then in August 2018, Tyga filed a lawsuit against Birdman, Lil Wayne, Cash Money, and Young Money for breach of contract. Early reports claimed about $1 million in unpaid royalties, but court filings later showed the figure climbing toward $10 million. The claims centered on royalties from Careless World, Hotel California, and singles like Faded and Make It Nasty. Birdman pushed back hard, arguing that Tyga actually owed Cash Money due to unrecouped advances. Accountant statements were presented showing Tyga's royalty account still deep in the red after advances and expenses, flipping the entire narrative. By April 2019, Tyga voluntarily dropped the lawsuit without a settlement. Sources said negotiations collapsed, largely because of Birdman's counterclaims. The case closed without prejudice, and while Birdman revisited the issue in 2022, no major legal moves followed. That brings us to the most recent chapter, NB YoungBoy. Around 2018, Birdman took YoungBoy under his wing, calling him the biggest rapper out and even a potential billion-dollar star, drawing comparisons to Lil Wayne. They released a joint project, From the Bayou, in 2021, highlighting their Leone's roots. Still, subtle warnings surfaced, including the 2020 Wayne verse that hinted YoungBoy should be cautious about industry veterans. Tension spiked in June 2024 when YoungBoy dropped Tears of War, recorded shortly before a police raid. In the lyrics, he spoke openly about betrayal, suggesting Birdman never truly cared and referenced Wayne's earlier warnings. Reactions were mixed, some fans seeing it as a partial shot rather than a full diss. By mid-2025, things shifted again. YoungBoy and Birdman reunited publicly in New Orleans, signaling a thaw. Birdman later joined YoungBoy's tour, which reportedly grossed over $70 million, and they performed together at the Cash Money vs. No Limit event, releasing new music and exchanging public praise. Birdman has since predicted massive future deals for YoungBoy, calling his talent special. For now, the situation appears resolved, but the familiar cycle of trust, fallout, and reunion highlights a pattern that's followed Birdman for decades. And that brings us to the end of this story.